Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I thought I'd go through 10 horror films that made my childhood. So 10 horror movies that I discovered as a kid, absolutely loved and still love them to this day, and I'll just talk a little bit about how I discovered them and that kind of thing. And I'm going to dedicate this video to my mum and dad. They gave me and my sister the best childhood we could ever hope for. They've always been amazing and supportive. Every good thing I have in my life is because of them. So just want to say thank you to them. Thank you, Mum and Dad. This is for you. And I was just looking on the list. There is actually quite a few violent and gory movies that I watched as a kid. But again, me and my sister were fortunate. My mum and dad always taught us right from wrong, and we were raised to know what was acceptable on television and what wasn't acceptable at school and things like that, and in a way these horror movies kind of reinforce that development. So that was a pretty cool part of childhood. Anyway, I'm digressing. So first movie from my childhood, in fact I'm going to start with two at the same time. The first one is Bad Taste and the second one is Brain Dead, which is more commonly known now as Dead Alive. But these are the two Peter Jackson gore fests from the late 80s and early 90s. And I discovered these through my dad. He must have discovered them at the same time as well in the early 90s. And my dad is not all that animated about horror movies. He's a big horror fan, but you can show him the greatest horror film in the world and he's just kind of like, it's alright. And it's like, God, what do you want? But I've never seen him so excited when he came across these films, and he was like, we've got to get these films, we've got to watch these films. And I was like, yeah. And I remember we went into town, we went to like HMV or whatever it was in the early 90s, and he got both these movies and we watched them, and we just had so much fun discovering and watching these films together. It was a great experience. And what I really liked about these as a kid, other than the fact that I got to experience them with my dad, is that even though there's some pretty horrific things that go on in these movies, they were funny at the same time. So although you felt like you was kind of next level up in terms of horror and gore, there was a veneer of silliness to them as well, which just kind of took the edge off a little bit. It wasn't like watching Cannibal Holocaust or something like that. You could have fun with these movies as well. So they were great films to discover as a kid. I have fond memories of watching these. So that is the first two. Okay, the third movie on the list is Day of the Dead. And in our house, my parents had like a laundry cupboard where they kept like pillows and blankets. And behind that was some horror videos. So as a kid, if ever I went to get a spare pillow, you'd take it out, and more often than not, a horror film would fall out. And one of the ones my dad had on video was Day of the Dead, and it was a big box VHS edition. The cover always used to scare me. It had the zombie faces on the front, but nevertheless I watched it anyway. And even as a kid I knew that I was watching a really good film, like a really well made film. And what always stuck with me and stayed with me about Day of the Dead was, as a kid you look up to adults. Adults are always like, big and strong, and adults fix things for you. But in Day of the Dead, it was not only adults, but like tough military men who were in this situation that they couldn't control, and the zombies were taking over them and killing these grown-ups. And that had like a real poignancy about it, that even as a kid I didn't quite grasp that there was something about that whole thing that just kind of stayed with me and made the film really effective. And this has actually gone on to be my favourite George Romero zombie film, but probably actually my favourite Romero film, full stop. I've always enjoyed it from a young age, but yeah, that whole thing of seeing tough grown-ups in a situation that they couldn't control, I thought was a really eye-opening thing back in the day. So that's Day of the Dead. Okay, at number 4 is The Deadly Spawn. So this one I bought on VHS on a car boot many years ago. I used to go to the car boot every Sunday, and there was a guy who used to turn up. He had a big white van, and inside the van he had crates and crates and crates of horror videos. And at the time, I could like barely afford one of these tapes a week. So I used to scrimp and save and buy one a week. And one of the ones that I watched that stayed with me the most is The Deadly Spawn. And I bought it based on the cover at the time. This movie's always had great covers, and at the time it was just a black cover with The Deadly Spawn on, and I bought it for that and loved it. At the time, didn't appreciate actually how good it was, because as a kid you kind of took it in your stride, but as I get older I appreciate that film more and more for its practical effects and the creature and that kind of thing. So that's a movie I've always loved as a kid. Okay, at number 5 is Demons. So my dad used to, still actually has a friend, and he used to come round and hang out with my dad every now and again. And then one time he lent him Demons, and I ended up watching it. And as a kid, it absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't believe how awesome the film was. I was just hooked on watching Demons. And every now and again, my dad would talk to his friend, and his friend could come over, and I'd be like, ask him to bring Demons, and getting all excited. And so my dad's friend used to come over and lend me Demons, which I'd just watch over and over again until I had to give it back. And then eventually I must have got it on video or DVD. So yeah, that was always exciting. Whenever his friend came round, I was always jumping around saying, please bring Demons, which he always did. He was a really cool guy, is a really cool guy. Right, number 6, I think, is Fright Night. I can't really remember how I came across this. I think I may have bought it on video as a young kid and just instantly fell in love with it. I was obsessed with Fright Night. I used to watch it like every single night, and I had other films to watch, but I was just remember thinking like, all I want to do is watch Fright Night. And yeah, I would watch it like 7 days a week, to the point where I knew every single word of the movie. I just absolutely loved it. Still love it now. It's still like in my top 5 favourite movies. So that was fun growing up and watching that. Next movie is Jaws. So as a lot of you will know, this is my favourite movie. It's one that I discovered when I was really young as a kid. As a kid, I was obsessed with sharks and the ocean and that kind of thing. And I also love movies. So these two came together, and it became my favourite film, and still is and always will be. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Jaws, really. Talked about it that much. Okay, next one is The Lost Boys. So this is another one of those videos that was in the laundry cupboard at my house, and I was getting something out and The Lost Boys fell out. And I remember looking at the cover that I had on video. It was just Kiefer Sutherland's face just looking at you. And I remember not being really interested in it. I thought at the time it was kind of like a drama. So this is like a drama about missing children. And it really didn't kind of resonate with me all that much. And then I had a look on the back, and there was another picture of Kiefer Sutherland like vamping out. And I was like, oh, okay, vampires, I'll give it a watch. And I watched it, and yeah, immediately loved it, and watch it, lost count of how many times I've watched it, and enjoy it every single time I watch it. It's a big part of my childhood and youth, as it was for a lot of other people, and still one of the coolest horror films ever made. And I love the Frog Brothers. I wanted to be a Frog Brother growing up. So that's Lost Boys. Number 9, I think we're at, is Pumpkinhead. So as a kid, on a Friday and Saturday night, I used to watch the Sci-Fi Channel, and at the weekend they used to change it to Sci-Fright, and they put 2 horror films on back to back, and I discovered so many really cool horror films as a kid on those Friday and Saturday nights. And back then as well, they put really good stuff on, quite mainstream or at least really good movies, not that kind of the CGI crap that they put on now on the Sci-Fi Channel. It was really cool. It was like 70s and 80s horror films, and Pumpkinhead was one of the most memorable ones. I really enjoyed watching this one whenever it came on, and it's a film as well. I watch it now and again, and it's one that really kind of grows on me as I watch it, because at the time I just kind of watched it for the monster, for the creature, but you kind of become more aware of other things going on in this film as you get older. There's a whole sort of kind of subtle subtext going on with sort of Lance Henriksen and his inner demons and things like that. It's a really interesting premise. So yeah, one that I've always loved since I was a kid. And the last horror film that really made my childhood is Zombie Flesh Eaters. Again, this is one that I found in the cupboard in my parents' house. It was this ancient looking videotape here. This is the Presert Vipco tape. It's really kind of grubby, kind of battle damaged and scuffed and that kind of thing, as it was when I found it, which kind of only added to the kind of the mysticism of this film. And I remember getting it and holding it and kind of knowing straight away that I'd found something that wasn't mainstream. I wasn't even aware of the concept of mainstream and non-mainstream, but as a kid I knew I'd found something a little bit different, and it was kind of intimidating to find it, but I watched it anyway and absolutely loved it. And I remember asking my dad, like what is this film? And he said, it's a video nasty. And that's the first time I come across that term, video nasty. And and I think I was like, what other video nasties are there? What else is there to watch? And he gave me a couple of suggestions, and yeah, but I've always had a soft spot for this film and this particular tape. I'll never get rid of this tape, regardless of how badly damaged it is now. But it's almost a family heirloom to me. So yeah, this has always been a special movie for me. So that was 10 horror films that made my childhood. So let me know what you think of that, guys. Did any of these horror films, were they part of your childhood too? If not, what movies were part of your childhood and times that you were growing up? I'd be really interested to know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.